Hello guys, and welcome to my new channel. I'm starting a new series where I upload content each week, hopefully showing progression in my goal to becoming a real artist. The subjects that I'll be studying are anatomy. Each video will start with me drawing by myself, and then we'll highlight an anatomy book that'll help lead me to progression. The video will end with sketches guided by the teachings of the literature I've read in the book. Hope you guys enjoy. God bless. And one last thing, hopefully this channel serves the goal of showing people that you have to start off somewhere. You can't just be born with some supernatural talent to be good at art. You have to start off bad, and then with practice, you can really get somewhere, hopefully. God bless. And now to go over some quick sketches that I made for the intro. Now these sketches are to show where I'm at in my art journey. I wouldn't say I'm very good. I have tons of problem with proportion and positioning. Now obviously right here I start off with the light sketch. I start off with the finger lines, starting with the thumb, pointer finger, middle finger, ring finger, and the pinky finger. Now I don't think this one's that bad, but if you really look at it, the proportions are not 100% where they're supposed to be. And this is one of the easier hands I've drawn. I've sketched the same hands for the most part over and over again. This one isn't very hard. Now, if I'm being honest, when it comes to my art journey, I haven't really been very disciplined. I don't really sketch often. These hands I've been drawing for the last, I think, year, just on and off, a little bit here and there. I sketched them with a friend and I talked to her about them, but they really aren't that good. Now, the next one is probably not going to turn out as good as the first one, because the first one was easy to position. I felt like a lot of the proportions were hidden behind the knuckles in the hand. But this one is one which I have not sketched very often. It's where the fingers are pointed down, and I think the proportions matter more because the fingers are exposed and they're all crunched up together. And when the hand is in such dramatic poses, the proportions when it comes to not just the fingers but the palm is very tricky, in my opinion, because it's longer than you would expect it to be, and if you don't get the proportions right, it's very awkward. But I often start off with the light sketch. I start off with the finger lines, and then I just creep down from side to side. I'm not sure if that's the correct way to do it, to start off on one side and then go to the other. It might be better to just do one on one. But I'm starting to realize while I'm sketching that the actual proportion between the middle finger and the ring finger are not correct, and it was supposed to be longer on the palm crease on the right hand side. I'm trying to fix it. And another problem I had while I was sketching was getting the correct view of the ring finger, because if you look at it, it doesn't really look attached. It looks like it's botched. And to be fair, I'm not really using shadows and all these other tricks to make it look better. I'm just doing the flat out sketch, and I did my best. I'm just adding the fingernails here to make it all come together. Now the first art book I've chosen is Basic Human Anatomy by Roberto Osti. I don't have too much experience choosing art books or how to study them, but this seemed like a very good one. It was very popular. And when I flipped through the illustrations, I understood why. I quickly flipped to the anatomy of the hand because that's what we're studying today. And what I thought was very important was the basic proportions of the hand. The width of the hand, excluding the thumb, is about half its length. The length of the finger, segment A, in the drawing at left is slightly less than the length of the palm, segment B. As shown in the drawing at right, the distal phalanx of the thumb reaches slightly above the base of the fingers at the palm of the hand. The proximal phalanx reaches halfway up the half of the palm. The joint between the first metacarpal and the proximal phalanx of the thumb is about halfway up the length of the palm. Now I completely understand and value this diagram and how it shows us the proportions and the measurements of what the fingers are supposed to be according to the hand. I think it's important to know that when the hand's not in a very stationary, plain position, and it's in a more dynamic position, it's really hard to measure. And I wish he had shown us more of that. And now, with the knowledge that I got and the tips I got from what I've read, I'm going to be trying my first sketches with this knowledge. This first sketch is it's the outside of the palm with the fingers kind of curled up. I don't think this one's a very complicated one, but when it comes to the dynamic pose, it's still kind of hard for me to get the palm. I feel like the palm is, I'm sorry, not the palm, but the outside hand is kind of hard to draw. And when it comes to the wrist area too, I think the fingers are probably the easiest to draw, even though making them make sure they look like they're connected wholly may be kind of hard. I think this one wasn't my best sketch of the bunch, but I think it's alright. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now, a problem I think I had with this sketch was that it was hard to capture the depth of the fingers, because I'm not really using shadows or like any contour lines to really emphasize what's close and what's far. So the middle finger kind of looks off, and the wrist and the back of the palm towards the left hand side also looks like it's not proportioned correctly. Now, if I'm being honest with you, after looking over the sketches, I do believe this one is probably the best sketch. I think it was the easiest to draw, even though I think they're curled up in a more dynamic way. I believe the middle finger and the ring finger are not very, they're not proportioned correctly, but it was kind of hard to get the depth of it because of how they were curled. I do believe I got the wrist better, and the palm, I think I did a better job than. I start off obviously with the main lines, go to the finger lines, and then start off with the fingers. I didn't start off with the thumb on this one, which may have been a mistake, but to be fair, the thumb was kind of in a more lengthy position, which made it a little bit more complicated. But I started with the middle finger, then I went to the ring finger, then I tried to connect them. I feel like when the fingers are connected, you kind of have to start off with those. You can't do one by one. You have to make sure they're connected properly. And then after I got the main lines down, I started drawing the fingernails, and then I went back and tried to fix the thumb because of how it's connected to the hand. It looks way off. And then I tried to fix the thumb and palm. Now, if the last one wasn't the best sketch I made, this one might be. Even though when I was sketching it, I thought the fingers looked very wonky and very big compared to the palm. Looking back at it, I don't think it looks that bad. I just think they were all crumbled up in a weird position, and I also didn't like how the thumb was placed, because without shadows, it was hard to capture the depth of it all. But I started off with the fingers, which I think were a little bit too big at the start, and it was kind of weird because some of the fingers are kind of hidden behind the other fingers. So when I was drawing the main lines for the middle finger and the ring finger, it looked really skinny and long and weird. But after drawing the pointer finger, everything started to look better. I fixed the thickness of the pointer finger right now. And then after drawing the main lines, that was pretty much it. Now, out of all the sketches, I thought this one was probably going to be the easiest to do, because of the previous sketches I've made. This positioning is the one I've done the most. Although I didn't think it looked the best because of the broken fingers, the way they look like that, and the way there's no contour shading lines. It looks really plain and really bland. Now, I start off how I always do, just making sure the lines are set up correctly. And I start off with the thumb, how I mainly do, but even though it came out kind of short compared to the fingers, I'll fix that later. I try to make sure that the fingers are spaced correctly, even though the middle finger and the ring finger did not come out spaced correctly. I try to fix that, and the proportions for the pinky finger were kind of weird and wonky too, but it didn't come out too terribly bad. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not mad about it either. Now, out of all the hands, when I placed the sketch on top of the actual picture, I think this one looks closest to what it's supposed to look like. The only difference is the thumb is kind of pointed upwards and not bent out like it's supposed to be. I think this one isn't the best one, but it looks alright. If I got the left side of the palm, the back of the palm correct, I think it'll look better. It looks too blocky, too plain. But the fingers, I think I got the way they were curved probably best on this sketch than any of the other sketches. The thumb is a problem, and so is the outside of the left palm. But it's okay, it's not bad. Now, from my previously had experiences, I think drawing a closed fist is probably the hardest thing for me. And now looking back at the sketch and analyzing it and comparing it to the main picture, I think I know why. The palm, the fatty part of the palm on the left is too long. It makes it look too blocky. And I start off with regular lines, start off with the finger, which at this point I didn't think it looked that bad. I actually think the fingers and the lines of them all look very good. Maybe the pinky one looked kind of weird because when you're close fist, it's kind of not blocky and it's kind of more like just like wonky lines on the pinky finger. But the wrist right now is what's holding it back, and so is the palm. But we'll get better. Now I ask that you guys please ignore the glare. The author did say, starting with your hand extended with the palm facing you and keeping the hand and forearm in a straight line, make a fist. You will immediately see that the volume created by the fingers, excluding the thumb, is not perpendicular to the wrist. If you reduce the fist to a rectangular shape, as in the drawing at the right, you can better appreciate how the fist is not perpendicular to the axis of the forearm, but instead shifts laterally towards the radius side. I do believe it's important to criticize where you think your biggest problems are. I know when it comes to drawing hands, drawing fists is my biggest problem. In comparison with the one right here, particularly, it's the proportions of the fingers, particularly speaking the thumb, and the correlation with the wrist. When it comes to the palm and the way it connects to the thumb and the wrist, and how the wrist looks skinnier and it's not as proportioned correctly. These are problems I have, and I hope to help them. Now that's all I have for my first video on YouTube. This right here is an image of all the hands I've sketched for the most part. And I like to say that with time and practice, and the more of these that come out, the better production value they're going to be, the more skill I'm going to have when it comes to putting everything together. And obviously the goal is to be a better artist and have better skills when it comes to sketching. Hopefully the way I want it all to work is each video I'm going to be going over a new book, and on my free time and outside of the videos I'm going to be practicing sketching by myself and all these sorts of things. I don't really expect anybody to be watching since it's my first video, but if you are, I just want to say God bless, have a great day, and thank you for watching.